We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose. We just crushed their face.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Gloria UGA podcast, where today we're going to recap a big recruiting weekend for Georgia football. We're going to break down some newly committed players. We're going to update you guys on some big visits over the weekend and a lot more. But first, if you're a diehard Georgia fan, go ahead, subscribe to this channel right now. Don't wait any longer. Hit that subscribe button, turn those notifications on, because everything we do here on this channel is designed for all you Georgia diehards. So subscribe, like, comment, let me know what you guys think. Get that conversation started. And for full episodes of our show, check out the Glory UJ podcast wherever you get your pods. But all right, guys, if you haven't already noticed, summer is officially here, and the temperatures outside aren't the only thing heating up this time of year, because this is one of the windows. Summer has become one of the windows where college football recruiting takes center stage. It was a couple years back now that they allowed official visits to actually start happening during the summer months, and since that time, summer has become probably the hottest time on the recruiting calendar, and the Georgia Bulldogs got their summer started with a big week on the trail. So let's break it all down, guys. But first, I got to address this off the top, because I know when a lot of you saw the title of this episode and clicked on it, and now you're watching, you're listening, and you're like, wait. You're telling me that Georgia had a big recruiting weekend, big recruiting week, when one of the biggest five-star targets the Dogs had in this class decided to commit to USC instead of Georgia when Georgia thought they had him. And of course, I'm talking about tight end Mark Bowman. How could this possibly be a big recruiting week for Georgia? How can Georgia recruiting be on a roll when that guy decides to go elsewhere? Well, I hear you. Look, guys, I think Mark Bowman is fantastic. I'm not going to sit here and go all sour grapes on you and tell you, oh, well, we didn't want him that badly anyway. He's really not that good. USC can have him. No. Mark Bowman's awesome. I talked about it here on this show a month or so ago, and I told you guys at that time I saw some shades of Brock Bowers in his game. Now, Brock is one of one. He's not Brock. Not saying that, but I think there's some similarities there beyond just the fact that they're both tight ends from the state of California. So, of course, I would have loved to have gotten Mark Bowman. Of course. But here's the thing. When we don't land Mark Bowman, whatever the reasons were, if you guys saw the reports, reportedly USC just dropped a bag in the range of $8 to $10 million over 3 years, reportedly. And look, guys, Georgia is not in a position with the tight end room that we have. Like, we're loaded at tight end, guys. We have one of the, if not the best tight end rooms in all of college football from top to bottom. We're straight up loaded. That's never a position that Georgia struggles to recruit. Todd Hartley is a freaking animal on the recruiting trail, and we have the proof of concept there, right? So Georgia's in incredible position in the tight end room. We are in a spot where we have to go extend ourselves financially, $8 to $10 million for a non-quarterback, allegedly. Yeah, USC, a once proud program who's now in a new conference, and it hasn't been really relevant in a decade or so, really. And their coach is now kind of entering a critical year where, like, he's not going to get fired if he goes like 7-5 this year, but it'll probably put him on the hot seat. Yeah, they're in a position where they're probably in more need of a guy like that they need to maybe go extend themselves a little bit more than Georgia would for a tight end. But regardless, here's the deal with Mark Bowman. Talented guy, awesome football player. But despite his talent, despite how awesome he is, I'm really not even sweating missing him. And here's why. It's not because he's not good. I just told you he is. I'm not sweating it because there were 2 5-star recruits at the tight end position that Georgia has been in hot pursuit over the past couple months. By the way, we already have one tight end commit on the commit list in Lincoln Keys. The guy's a good player. But there were 2 other 5-stars that we were trying to supplement this class with. One of them, yes, was Mark Bowman out of Mater Dei in California. The other guy is a Georgia kid out of Bowden here in the great state of Georgia, and that dude is Kaden Prothro. The reality is, guys, it was a pipe dream to think that Georgia was ever going to get both Bowman and Prothro. Even though Prothro is a guy that could also play receiver potentially, and they're built a little bit differently, it was a pipe dream that we were going to land both of them, right? Highly, highly unlikely. So if we lose on Mark Bowman, and maybe he was the higher guy on Georgia's board at tight end, maybe we don't really know that, maybe. But even if he was, okay, you miss on him, all that does is that improves Georgia's positioning with the other five-star tight end that we have been in hot pursuit of and that we are in a great position with Kaden Prothro. It further enhances where we stand with him. And guys, Kaden Prothro, I've talked about him a little bit before. If you have not heard me talk about him, if you're new to the show, the guy's a 6'6", 220 freaking unicorn. And I say that because at 6'6", 220, you are kind of like you're a tweener, right? Like, are you a big jumbo receiver, or are you a tight end? Like, you have the height to be a tight end, but you're 220, probably a little light in the britches. So which way are you going to go here? But even the jumbo receivers at 6'6", 220, rarely are they as fluid as this guy. Rarely do they move the way that Kaden Prothro does, to the degree that he absolutely could function at a high level for Georgia or any school at the next level as a X receiver. But I also think he can play that mover tight end role for Georgia too. I think he probably needs to gain a little bit of weight. Like 220 is probably not going to cut it at tight end at Georgia. Probably he's getting that 240, 245 range at least, which I think he probably would if he doesn't come to Georgia and he wants to play tight end. Absolutely. But he does have that versatility. But again, the reality is, guys, we were never going to get both of those guys. And one of the big developments over this weekend, beyond just the fact that Mark Bowman decided to go to USC, well, in combination with that, Kaden Prothro just so happened to be in Athens this weekend for his official visit. And beyond that, because people take official visits, that's not uncommon. But here's what makes you stand up and take even more notice. It makes you feel even better about Georgia's positioning with Kaden Prothro right now. Not only did he come to Georgia on his official visit, he came and then chose to extend his stay for longer than he was initially scheduled to stay. He extended his stay through Sunday into Monday and worked out for the coaching staff. That is a very, very strong sign, guys. The way most of his official visits go is the guys come Friday, they're there all day Saturday, they have breakfast on Sunday, they meet with Kirby one last time, and they're all on their way. Well, this guy stayed through Sunday, extended that stay. I think that's a very strong sign. Again, so not only is it that, okay, well, Mark Bowman, the other five-star tight end that we're recruiting, he's going elsewhere, but now Prothro is here over the weekend and staying longer than he was originally scheduled to stay. To me, those are very, very strong signs that Georgia has now probably put itself in the pole position for a ridiculous talent in Kaden Prothro. So that, off the top, guys, is a huge development for Georgia. Even though I know ostensibly it's like, wait, you missed on Mark Bowman. How can it be a big recruiting weekend? Well, all that did was improve our position with the other five-star tight end that we have been recruiting. But that's kind of burying the lead, guys. Beyond that, beyond Prothro and his visits and that development, Georgia also landed 3 commitments over the course of the past week. The first of those being wide receiver Ryan Mosley out of Carrollton High School. He committed actually on Wednesday, and I love this guy. I do. I had somebody ask me last week, hey, do you think this guy Mosley is a future star for Georgia? And I can't say yes right now because I need to see a little bit more. But I do love his game and what he brings to the table. So his size, he's anywhere from 6'2 to 6'4. Literally, guys, depending on what recruiting service you look at, I've seen him on one service at 6'2, another service at 6'3, and another service at 6'4. Pick your poison. Somewhere between 6'2 and 6'4, about 200, 205 pounds. He's number 251 nationally. But that ranking is due largely to the fact that there is one outlier in the recruiting rankings, that being 247. 247 doesn't even have him rated as a national prospect, which is ridiculous. The other 3 services, On3, Rivals, and ESPN, for whatever that's worth, they all have him inside like the top 190. So the fact that 247 is just behind the rankings and needs to update that pretty quickly, that's not really a true indication of like the talent this guy brings to the table. I think he's probably more of like a somewhere between top 100, top 150 guy nationally is my take on this kid. Now, if I'm going to break down his game for you, which is what I'm going to do right here, if there's one word I had to use to describe Ryan Mosley's game, it would be physicality. This guy brings a ton of physicality to the wide receiver position. He is a Georgia guy at receiver. He's the type of player that Georgia looks for at receiver in terms of being able to go out there and not just help you in the pass game, like actually go out there and catch footballs, which he can do. We'll get to that in a minute. But he's also a willing an able, very capable blocker on the perimeter, whether it's the perimeter screen game, the perimeter run game, and that's a non-negotiable at Georgia at the receiver position, guys. It just is. You see it year after year. Guys that you think are really talented, really athletic, can be playmakers with the ball in their hands, well, they have a really hard time getting on the field. Why? Because they can't block. Either they're not willing, they're not capable, they're not physical enough, whatever it is. Case in point, Anthony Evans last year. I mean, I was the guy for a while screaming about Anthony Evans. Like, this guy, we need playmaker to receiver. He's a playmaker. He's explosive. He's a big play waiting to happen. We got to find ways to get him on the field. And then we started to find more ways to get him on the field. And I started to see why he wasn't playing much earlier. Oh, yeah. He struggles with the things that we ask our receivers to do. He struggled to block. It's that simple. The physicality wasn't there. Like, oh, I don't know. Go back to the Notre Dame game in the Sugar Bowl where we got the ball in the red zone. We're driving, about to put some points up on the board in the first half. And he, on 3rd and 1, is brought in line like in a bunch set, in a tight set, and just completely whips. It doesn't even really try to block the blitzing safety who comes in the backfield unmolested to blow up Trevor Etienne almost as soon as he touches the football. We fumble the ball, we get 0 points there, and, the rest is history. Also what happened there. Those kind of things. Those are things you don't have to worry about with a guy like Ryan Mosley. I know people get frustrated with that. Like, these guys are there to catch. We don't need to block. Guys, receivers blocking is a big part of the run game. Like, it's a big part of like a 5, 6, 7 yard gain turning into a 50, 60 yard gain. Those guys blocking out there in the perimeter, blocking at the 2nd and 3rd level. Ryan Mosley brings that to Georgia. Absolutely. And when I look at him, one thing I would say about Mosley is I think he has a really high floor. I think the ceiling is still TBD. I need to see more from him. I watched him last year. I've seen his tape. And also watched him last year in the GHSA playoffs, Carrollton High School. And I liked what I saw, but I still like, what is the ceiling? Is the ceiling, like somebody asked me again, is he a star receiver? I don't know. I'm going to be paying much more close attention this year to try to answer that very question. But at the very least, I think he has a high floor because he's got the physicality and also because the dude knows how to get open, all right? I don't think he's a plus athlete based off what I've seen yet. Like, I reserve the right to alter that analysis, but right now I don't see plus athlete when I watch him play. I see really good athlete, just not like a plus level athlete. But yeah, he knows how to get open. Again, the physicality at the point of attack, like on the line of scrimmage, so somebody trying to get in his face and press him in man coverage, he does a really good job of getting off press man coverage. He's strong, he's physical there at the line, can get off, can get open that way, but also he does a really good job of like setting up DBs. Like, he does a good job of setting up the routes. I would not say he's as proficient a route runner coming out of high school as a guy like Kylan Taylor was coming out of high school a year ago. That guy was just on another level running routes, but he's a really strong route runner, fairly polished in that aspect of his game compared to most guys at the receiver position coming out of high school. So I love that about him. And he also has strong hands, right? How many times do we see Georgia receivers drop passes last year? Ryan Moses is a guy that can get open, and when he gets open, he can catch the football. Has a nice catch radius with his size, can go up and high point the football, win those 50-50 contested catches, and is just reliable when the ball is coming his way. And so again, like, I think the ceiling is TBD, but if you're looking at like evaluating a receiver, like we all look at all these different aspects of evaluating a receiver, but the core of it, it's really about two things more than anything else. Can you get open? Can you catch the football when it comes your way? And Ryan Mosley can do both those things at a very high level. That's why I say he has a high floor. I think his floor is probably like a guy like Marcus Joseph-Jackson. And if we get a guy like Marcus Joseph-Jackson, sign me up all day long. And I'm not saying that's what he's limited to. There is the chance he could be better than that, but I think that's the floor for him. So I'm very excited to get a guy like that. That's just a Georgia program type guy. So I think that was a big commitment to start off last week on Wednesday, but that wasn't it. On Saturday, we followed that up with a commitment from a Georgia legacy, Carter Lucky, yes, brother of Lawson Lucky. I think this will make the 5th Lucky to play at Georgia, so multi-time legacy here at Georgia. And Carter's a defensive guy, different from Lawson. Lawson tight end, really came on late last year. I think he's in line for a big jump this year for Georgia. Very excited to see what Lawson will be able to do for us in our offense this year. But Carter's a defensive lineman at 6'5", 280, he's number 307 nationally, which, guys, look, I know what you're going to say when I say this. I know I'm a Georgia guy. I don't hide that, okay? I know a lot of you, when I say this, are going to call me a homer. But before you do that, before you type that in the comments, before you hit me up on social media and call me a homer, just please turn on the tape. If you haven't watched Carl Lucky's tape, turn on the tape before you come rip me, all right? Because I think when you look at where he's ranked at 307 nationally, you compare that to what you see on tape, I believe Carter Lucky is woefully underrated. And that's not me saying I think he should be a 5-star guy. I think kind of like I would say with Mosley, I think he's probably somewhere in the range of top 100, top 150. And I do think that ranking will be adjusted as time goes on. It's early in the cycle, so I'm not going to get up in arms about it. I just think right now he's outside the top 300. That's crazy because when you turn the tape, what you see is an incredibly impressive athlete considering the frame that this guy is in, that he carries. 6'5", 280. The way that he moves at that size is highly impressive, guys. It's outstanding. He's got some legit twitch in his game. I think he has some legit explosiveness in his game. He's a guy that is very disruptive in the backfield, and it's not one of these guys that plays at like a lower classification where he's just bigger and stronger than everybody else and just dominates physically. He plays the highest classification in the state of Georgia, some high-level football, some of the highest level football that you will see anywhere in this entire country. And I've seen this guy not just on tape. He plays at Norcross. He's a Gwinnett County kid. I'm a former Gwinnett County kid a long time ago. He plays my former high school alma mater every year. So I've seen this guy play multiple times. And I'm telling you, this guy is really, really freaking good. Got that twitch, got that explosiveness in a 6'5", 280 frame, really strong athleticism, but also a really strong run defender. He does an outstanding job on the edge of attacking the blocker, getting that punch on the blocker, and extending his arms and controlling the blocker and then being able to shed them and make the play on the ball carrier. Those are things you see at the NFL level on Sundays. He's doing them right now as a junior in high school, rising senior in high school. Now, I'm not saying go play in the NFL right now, but he is I think, very polished run defender relative to what you typically see at a defensive lineman at a high school who just really oftentimes just are bigger and stronger than everybody, so they just kind of like dominate. Like they don't have to be like technically sound. I don't think that's the case with Lucky. Like he plays some really high level football. He plays like Buford's the team he'll play against, right? He's got to be able to go out there and be strong at the point of attack, which he is, but also do it from a technically sound standpoint. So love that. Uses his hands very well. I also think that he brings some positional versatility to the game. He's a guy that right now, at 6'5", 280, if he didn't grow, didn't gain a pound, didn't grow an inch, and stayed that way throughout his entire career at Georgia, he's a 5-tech defensive end. However, I do think that there is some room to grow in that frame. I could easily see him bump up 20, 30 pounds in the next year to two and see him play at the 300 to 310 pound range for Georgia. If he does that, he's going to grow into a 3-tech defensive tackle, and I think he can grow into an uber athletic 3-tech defensive tackle. I think he has the frame to add that way and not really lose any of his athleticism. So we'll see how he grows and like what his body does. But right now he's a 5-tech, but he does have the potential to grow into a 3-tech. If he stays at 5-tech, I think you would see a lot of like what you saw in Tyron Ingram-Dawkins, where a guy that is strong at the point of attack, can really help you defending the edge, setting the edge against the run, but also has that athleticism, has some explosiveness, some first step quickness in his game that can allow him to be a disruptor in the backfield the way that we saw from TID at times last year. So I'm very excited about Lucky, and I know it's some people look at it and say, oh, well, yeah, like, you know, we were going to get him regardless. It's a legacy thing, so it's not all that exciting for some people. Be excited, guys. Lucky is a legit player. This is not just like a mercy offer. Oh, you're lucky, so we have to offer you. No. Kirby Smart doesn't do that. This guy earned the offer because he has legit athleticism, legit strength, and legit technique at this level that will all translate to the college level here in a year or so. And then finally, I think it was yesterday, on Monday, the third and final commitment for Georgia in the course of the past week was from a 2027 kid. So both Mosley and Lucky are 2026 kids. They're rising seniors. This next kid is a 2027 guy, which means he's a rising junior. So it's a long way to go, admittedly, in his recruitment. But hey, for now, he's on Georgia's 2027 commit list, and that is a wide receiver out of Mater Dei, which is the school that Mark Bowman coincidentally goes to right now, and also the school that Nate Frazier went to. We got him out of Mater Dei a couple years ago. Two-time defending national champion at the high school level. Big-time high school program, right? I'm going to butcher his name. Guys, I've legit been practicing here, but I'm going to try my best. Gavin Onoray. So I think the French pronunciation, the H is silent there, so we're going to go Gavin Onoray. He's a legit prototypical slot receiver, 5'10", 175 pounds. The name of his game, like if physicality is what Mosley does best, in my opinion, I think it's explosiveness when you look at Onoray's game. This is a guy, again, 5'10", 175, prototypical slot receiver. There was a time, 15 years ago where a guy his size, stature would not have sniffed an offer from Georgia or most SEC schools, like maybe get a flyer late in the class. But those times have changed because we've all seen, even at the NFL level, what these smaller, shiftier, faster slot receivers can do and how lethal they can be. And I've been longing for these guys on our roster. We kind of had one in Dominic Lovett. I think we've got one in Zachariah Branch. Jeremy Bell is a guy I really like as well. But he's certainly in that mold. He's an explosive player out of that slot position. I do think he has the ability to play outside if necessary. I just don't think that's his best position. On tape, he does play outside some, but he's more of a slot guy. But when he's in the slot, he's got that speed to just run by a slot DB. That's one of the things about these slot receivers, guys. They're by nature of the position playing off the ball. So you can't really get hands on. You can't really press them at the line of scrimmage. So if you don't get a press on these guys and they're as fast as Onoray is, you're going to run by a lot of these slot DBs, especially if they're in man coverage. And you see that on tape time and time again. I also think that he's a big play waiting to happen with the ball in his hands, really dynamic in space with that ball after the catch. So this is a guy that I think if he does end up sticking, and like we'll see, guys. I know, a 2027 kid, a long time to go here. A lot of things can happen. Somebody could come drop a bag. Sure, of course they could. But right now he's on the commit list. That's all we can operate off of. And if he does stick, this is a guy that absolutely can be a big-time playmaker for Georgia here in a couple of years. So some big news there in terms of 3 commitments over the course of the past week. But that's not it, guys. Beyond the commitments, there were some big visits that happened here over the weekend in the Classic City. Now, not all of them mean that Georgia's going to get this guy, get that guy. But if they're visiting, that's a strong sign. At least they're listening. At least you got a puncher's chance if they're visiting. And we're going to start with a guy named Cedarian Morgan. If you follow recruiting closely, you probably heard that name in this cycle. He's the number 2 receiver in the class. He's an Alabama kid. Big X receiver, 6'4", 220, 5-star prospect. Georgia, we've been recruiting this guy pretty hard, and we got him on campus this weekend. And by all accounts, according to On3, he was here this weekend, and the visit went as well as you could hope it would have gone. I still don't think that we're going to land him. I'm like in a show me mode with this. Like, I'll believe it when it happens, right? But again, when he comes to campus and he visits, he's listening. He's giving you a shot. And you put your best foot forward and you see what happens. So getting a guy of that caliber on campus, it doesn't hurt, right? That's a strong development. And then another receiver that I am very, very high on, that's high on my list of wants in this class, is a Georgia kid out of Cambridge High School here in the great state of Georgia, and that is Craig Dandridge. A different kind of receiver than Morgan. Morgan, a big 6'4", 220 kid. Dandridge is 6'1", 175. I think he's more of like a Z receiver, but this guy has come on really strong, had a really strong spring, has done really well at some camps, and he is moving up the recruiting rankings. I think when they do the next update, he'll be in line for a pretty big jump. He's number 228 nationally. Again, I think he's probably a guy inside the top 200, 150, somewhere around there. Different game than Morgan. More explosive, more of an athlete out there that I think you see in Cedarian Morgan and guys like that. But I think he's got some fluidity in his game. I do think that Dandridge right now, to be like, I don't want to be critical, but just some constructive criticism, I think there's some room to grow for him in terms of his route running ability. But here's the encouraging thing. He's got the physical tools it takes to be like an elite route runner. He's incredibly fluid out there, got really loose hips. Like he has what it takes to be an awesome route runner. He does it at times. I just don't know if he's consistent with it right now, but I think he can grow to a very strong route runner. He's a really good athlete, can be a vertical threat down the field. Really, really like him. He was in town over the weekend. And from all accounts, it seems like probably even before the weekend, but certainly coming out of the visit this past weekend, that George is in the driver's seat for Craig Dandridge. And I think that is a very, very good sign for George. I think this guy can be a really strong receiver at the next level. Another big-time guy, big-time 5-star prospect that I don't think will ultimately end up coming to Georgia, but we got him on campus this weekend, and like with Morgan, that's at least something, right? And that's Xavier Crowell, the number 2 running back in the country, also an Alabama kid. I think he'll probably end up going to Alabama, probably. But, hey, we've been recruiting this guy. He came to campus, listening. We gave him our best shot. We'll see what happens. And look, we might not get him. Probably won't get him. But when a guy like that caliber makes it to campus over the weekend, that is a strong development worth paying attention to. Now, the next 2 guys are guys that I would say Georgia might have solidified themselves with over the weekend. The first one is Kamari Brooks. If you heard me talk about him, you know how high I am on this guy. He's a North Dakota prospect, so a local guy here on Athens. I've seen this guy play multiple times, like live. So a little inside baseball, if you don't know me, I live like 2 miles from Clark Central High School here in Athens. And Clark Central played North Dakota last year, not here in Athens. They played him in North Dakota, but I watched that game. And guys, Kamari Brooks is the best player on the field. Like, zero questions asked. The guy's a freaking stud. He plays tight end, plays edge rusher for North Oconee, 6'3", 230, number 115 prospect nationally. I think this guy is a big-time future edge rusher at the next level, and I'm hoping it's going to be for Georgia. And look, he's come to Athens a ton, obviously being just down the road. He's been to campus a lot of times. He was here over the weekend, and guys, I think it's a matter of time. I know with the way recruiting works now, with NIL and bags being dropped, like, it's never been, nothing was ever a sure thing in recruiting. Now it's even less so a sure thing. But I do believe this is a case of, it's a matter of when, not if, Kamari Brooks commits. And the way that things went this weekend, reportedly, according to On3, it sounds like it might be a sooner rather than later thing with Kamari Brooks, which I think is a big development for the Georgia Bulldogs. And finally, Justice Fitzpatrick. If you've heard that name before, yeah, that's the brother of Minkah Fitzpatrick. Obviously, there's some connections there. Kirby recruited Minkah Fitzpatrick back in the day at Alabama, coached him for a little bit there. And now his brother's also a DB, a 6'1", 195-pound cornerback. And guys, Georgia's been really trending with Fitzpatrick for a couple of weeks now. Got him on campus over the weekend, number 64 overall. Nationally, is a big-time recruit, big-time four-star guy, highly rated four-star recruit. And it seems like, according to what you hear from On3 and like Dogs HQ, that Georgia might have sealed the deal over the weekend. Again, like I said with Brooks, you never say never when recruiting, right? Like, crazy things happen. But I do think right now that we sit in the pole position for Justice Fitzpatrick, who is a really high-level DB. It will be a welcome addition to that Georgia secondary. But all in all, guys, between the commitments, between the visits, who we're training with, it was a big week for the Georgia Bulldogs on the recruiting trail, both in terms like the immediate returns, in the form of commitments, and also laying the groundwork for future splashes on the trail later this summer. But however it goes, guys, wherever these guys end up going, whoever commits, whoever doesn't commit, we'll have you covered here on this channel. So make sure, if you haven't already, subscribe, like, comment, let me know what you think, get that conversation started. And I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Tyler, and as always, go Dogs!
Man, is there going to be some property destroyed tonight. 26-21. Dogs on top.